The posting had been up for 6 rotations before Naira deleted it in shame. Seeking personal security consultant. Species neutral. Competitive compensation. No combat experience necessary. Position is largely ceremonial. Ceremonial. She'd written that because everyone in the Velhari Merchant Consortium wrote that. Because nobody wanted to admit they were scared. Because fear, in the upper echelons of interstellar trade, was a liability priced worse than a collapsed shipping lane. Then the Drevithi ambassador's second wife got kidnapped on Praxis Station, and Naira rewrote the posting at 0300 station time with shaking hands. Seeking security consultant. Combat experience required. Deathworld candidates preferred. She hadn't expected anyone to respond. Kalen arrived on a Tuesday. He arrived the way weather arrives, without ceremony, without announcement, just suddenly present in a way that reorganized the atmosphere around him. Naira's receptionist, Vel, a four-armed Sethany who had survived 3 corporate coups and a border war, looked up from her desk and said nothing for 4 full seconds. 4 seconds was geological time for Vel. "Your appointment is here," she finally said through the calm, her voice doing something Naira had never heard it do before. Being careful. The man who walked through Naira's office door stood 2 meters and change, built the way load-bearing structures are built. Not for aesthetics, not for display, but because the load is real and the alternative is collapse. He had the kind of face that had been weathered into something past handsome, past ugly, into a third category Naira didn't have a word for in any of her 7 languages. She made a mental note to find one. "Kalen," he said. Not "I'm Kalen" or "my name is." Just the word, dropped into the room like a gear shifting. Naira Vasith. She kept her voice in its professional register. "You're the Earth applicant." "Yeah." She looked at his file on her display, then at him, then back at the file, because the file said things she needed the file to confirm. "This says you were formerly with the..." She pronounced it wrong. He didn't correct her. "The 9th Mountain Division. And before that..." She paused. "You were a wildland firefighter." "Yeah." "You ran toward fires." "That's generally how it worked." Naira set the display down. "Mr. Kalen, I want to be transparent with you. My previous security consultant was a Grethack veteran. 6 limbs, armored epidermis, threat assessment rating of 8.4. He quit 11 days ago because a Drevithi splinter faction sent us a warning package. He said, and I am quoting directly here, that he did not have the correct relationship with mortality to continue in this role." Kalen looked at her for a moment. "What did they send?" "A vial of something. We still don't know what." "Was it a night?" "Physically, yes. Psychologically." She gestured. The gesture finished the sentence. He nodded slowly. Thinking, she realized. Actually processing it rather than performing the processing. "Drevithi splinters usually go for the symbolic stuff first," he said. "Means they're not ready to move yet. You've got time, but the window's not wide." He looked around the office. "Your ventilation system's running single route." "That's the first thing." She stared at him. He'd been in the room 40 seconds. She hired him before he left the building. The first week was a lesson in the particular discomfort of being safe. Naira had lived with ambient threat for so long it had become a form of silence. The silence under all other sounds. Always present, easy to ignore until it wasn't. Having Kalen present was like having the silence replaced with something else. Something heavier and more deliberate. He was not loud. He barely spoke. But he took up space in a way that had nothing to do with his size. He cataloged exits. He noted faces. He stood slightly wrong in doorways, not blocking them, not quite. Positioned in some angle, she didn't have the tactical vocabulary to name, but her hindbrain apparently recognized, because her hindbrain had started filing him under safe perimeter and adjusting her stress chemistry accordingly. She found this annoying. She found it annoying because it was working. "You're not what I expected," she told him, 12 days in, over terrible station coffee that he drank like it was fine. "What did you expect? Someone who would need to be managed. Explained to." She paused. "The last Terran I employed required a 40-page cultural orientation packet." "Yeah, well." He drank the coffee. "I've been off-world 11 years. You pick things up." "That's not what I mean." She looked at him. "You adapted. Most humans I've worked with treat adaptation like a concession." Something shifted in his face. "Not much. Like a tide going out an inch. Adaptation is the only thing we're actually good at," he said. "Everything else we do is downstream of that." Naira considered this. You make it sound biological. It is. Your people run into fires and antagonize Drevithi splinter cells and call it biology. I call it Tuesday. The attempt came on a Thursday. Naira had been in a meeting with the Praxis Subcouncil. 8 species, 17 competing commercial interests, one very bad catering selection, when her earpiece gave the signal. 2 clicks. The pattern Kalen had made her memorize on day 1. Don't move, don't speak, don't telegraph. She didn't. She sat perfectly still while the subcouncil argued about tariff corridors, and she watched, in her peripheral vision, the side door at the back of the conference room do something that side doors do not do. Open from the outside. Someone came through it who hadn't been on any attendee list. Then Kalen stepped in front of her. She did not see what happened next. She heard it. 3 sounds. Sharp, sharp, then a different kind of sharp. Lower, more final, the sound of weight hitting floor. When she looked, the man was restrained on the ground, and Kalen was crouching next to him with the particular stillness of someone checking whether a problem was solved or merely paused. Drevithi contract, he said, conversationally, to her, across a room full of aliens currently doing what most species do when confronted with violence, not moving. Lower tier. He's breathing. Naira became aware that the subcouncil was staring at her. She became aware that she was the calmest person in the room. She straightened her jacket. I apologize for the disruption, she said. We'll need to revisit the ventilation security provisions in subclause 12. I've been advised they're insufficient. Kalen stood, and the room breathed again. Later, station night, her office lit amber, the threat now cataloged and handed to station security. She sat across from him with 2 glasses of something that technically wasn't alcohol by Sethany tax law, but functionally was. You knew he was coming, she said. Before the door. I suspected. How? He came in on the morning transit. Wrong shoes for the station gravity. Somebody who lives here, you compensate without thinking. He was thinking about it. Naira looked at her glass. You notice shoes. I notice everything that doesn't fit. That must be exhausting. He looked at her. Really looked, the way he sometimes did, direct and unperformed. It's just how the brain runs after a while, he said. You can't turn it off. You learn to live in it. She understood, suddenly, that he was not talking about security work. She did not say this. 11 years off-world, she said instead. Do you miss it? Earth. A long pause. Longer than she expected from someone who was usually so economical. Miss is a weird word for it, he finally said. She waited. He didn't finish. She didn't push, because she had learned. 12 days in, 1 assassination attempt survived, 2 glasses of technically not alcohol consumed. That Kalen was a man built like a wall, and she had developed the alarming suspicion that walls sometimes exist not to block things out, but to hold things up. That was a thought she would need to not think again until circumstances were different. She lifted her glass. To insufficient ventilation security. The side of his mouth moved. Not quite a smile. The shape that comes before a smile, the tectonic pressure behind it. To terrible coffee, he said. They drank. Outside, the station turned, indifferent and enormous, full of species who had evolved under kinder suns and gentler skies, who had looked up at their worlds and learned to fear them. Kalen's people had looked up at their world and taken notes. Naira's new posting, updated that night, read, Position filled. Deathworld candidates preferred. For obvious reasons.